We got back our photographer. The lights are back on. Okay, we're in the midst of the last Perik in Masechta Kilayim, and we started already and we explained that this Perik deals with Kilayim of Begodim, and the only specific Kilayim of Begodim that is awesome in our Torah is wool and flax, or linen. Other than that, it could be called Kilayim, but if it has a Shleim Leviyah, it doesn't go under that headache. So the Mishna continues and says, we already also we went into Tumah a little bit with Kilayim, and we also went in with the begodim of a Kohen, of the Kahanim, with Kilayim. Now we're going to explain what happens. We already explained what does wool mean. Wool mean. It can mean different things. So he said if it has a Shem Leviyah, has a nickname. For example, it's called Tsemegomel, the wool of a camel, or Tsemel Arneves, or the wool of a rabbit. We call it the fur of the rabbit. But in Lashon Kodesh, it could be also be called the wool. Since it has a Shem Leviyah, it's not recognized as Semel. What Semel is from two species, two items. Either it's from a ewe, or it's from a ram. Otherwise, it's not what we call true tzema. We're not talking about the Rabbanims now. We're talking about the Raisa. So now the Mishnah continues and says, what happens if you have tzemer gemalim mixed with a different tzema? Tzemer rechelim, the wool of a ewe. So the wool of a ewe is true blue tzema. Tzemer gemalim is not really tzemer. Shatar from zebezeh, you went ahead and you mixed them. And now you want to know if it can be put with flax.
Into one thread.
Into one thread. We're going to see shortly what this means. It's not so simple. Imroiv min hagemalim mutter. If the majority of that material is what we call camel's wool, then it's not really awesome in our Torah. However, if it's a majority from the wool, the material, that piece of cloth that you're going to be using is from the threads from the ooze, asa. And even if it's mechsa, the mechsa is also asa. So let's see how the Mefarish explains this. If it gets mixed up, these threads, and some of it's made up of camel wool, or some of it from lamb wool, but and the majority of it is the tzema from the gemalim, is mutar pishtim and, then you don't have a problem of mixing it. Because as far as we're concerned, we say that it's bottle beroiv. But teruvas kula nechshavas kitzem gemalim hamuta bepishtim. Now, it's going to be considered as if it's mixed tzem gemalim with the pishtim. Since the thread is mixed up, majority is gam megomel. However, lu'umazois, on the other side of the coin, im tzemer chelim hu aroif, if the wool from the u is the majority, or afilu mechsa b'taroif, even if it's 50-50, so there's no bittul beroif, Tzemer chelim ain't a bottle but tzemer gemalim v'oslar pishtim atarovis. You can't mix it with any type of flax. Now, said about what are we talking over here about with the threads? Bittul beroiv shayach rakashat sema pishtim arvu lifnei came b'minach. Bittul beroiv is only shayach when there were threads. You had threads of wool, or you have different types of threads of pishtim, which we'll go into shortly. And then there's a bittul beroiv. So if, let's say, you put together a whole bunch of threads, and 5 of them are from camel, and 2 of them are from not a problem. But you're going to say, it's 98% wool and it's only 2%. Like you go to the shatnez store and you have them check it out, it might be just a little bit that's on the collar. Over here you don't say that is a bittul beroiv. What's the reasoning? This is a little bit like basa b'cholov. It's not min b'minoi. No. Min b'minoi is something else completely. Min b'minoi is dam and dam. You have dam of kachim with dam of chulin. That's min b'minoi. Over here, you don't have a min b'minoi. Flax is one type of a material, and wool is another type of a material. And they collide. Each one is kosher. You can put on 100% flax, pishtin type of garment. Or vice versa. You can go ahead and put on a garment that's completely wool. The mixture of both creates prohibition. Now it's completely issa. Where you have a situation of 2 types, camel, and you have regular wool, they're both mutter, so you can say bittul beroiv. However, it's because you would say the same thing with basa v'cholov. Ulam, there's one different wrinkle that you have by basa v'cholov, because the same thing by basa v'cholov. You have meat. If the meat was separate, would never touch the milk, and you want to go ahead and drink the milk, kosher milk, and then 2 hours later you want to eat the meat, fine and dandy, no problem. But if you cook them together, you're up the creek without a paddle. Ulam b'taroiv shel basa b'cholov, when you mix up the basa b'cholov, afal pi shekolechem mehem mutter b'fnei atzmoi. Each one separate is kosher v'yosher. Ve'iriv shelehem gorim lehem liyoser, and the mixture creates prohibition. We call mokim yesh kan din bittul b'shishim. There is a din of bittul b'shishim, not a bittul beroiv, but a bittul b'shishim. Bittul beroiv you will not find, and this is a special halacha by basa v'cholov. But let's say you have something of isser. Let's say you have what you would call, when it grows the first 3 years, it's not working. Growth of the first 3 years, of Paris of the first 3 years. Huh? Arla. That's Isser. Right? And then you have with B'mei, it was Basayim. Or let's say over here it's a din of Nois and Tam. Why there's a din of Bittul B'shishim? And that's Xeris HaKosef. There's a Toisvis on it over there in Masechta Nida, Voidazara, Chulin, how it works. So over here, the question is whether it got bottled before the mixture of prohibition or after the mixture of prohibition. If you go ahead and you make this beautiful garment that you create a beautiful beged out of it, and it has wool and flax in it, will you get malchus? No. It's different than basa v'cholav, because it says if you go ahead and cook meat and meat together, what you would say is comparable, you're over the issa before eating it, even before eating it, because you cook meat and milk together. If you make a garment of Kilayim, there's no prohibition. In fact, you can sell it to your friendly neighbor who's not Jewish, and say, "Here, take it." There's no isana on it, right? When it says it's prohibited to mix flax with the wool, when we say osir over here, it's different than the other osirs that we have in Kol HaTorah Kula. Over here it means one thing only. Habeged osir b'levisha. The connotation of this is that you can't wear it. Other than that, no problemo. No problem. So if you made it, and you have your friendly neighbor who sees it and says, "This is such a beautiful garment. I want to wear it. Sell it to me. I'll give you $500 for it." Absolutely. Take the $500 and run for your life. No problem. Okay.
I can make a rug out of it, quilt out of it.
Rug out of it's not so simple. A quilt out of it is also not so simple, because you can't wear it on top of your body. So if you make a quilt out of it and you put it on top of your body, it's as if you were wearing it. So it's not so simple.
You can't make a couch out of it either. Is that
What?
You can't make a couch and sit on it, or
A couch?
We'll get to that.
That already is a more of a gray area. No threads can go on top of you with it. Till now, we learned that there's a simple theorem here. What's the theorem? The theorem is we go with the concept of nullifying with the majority. Ulam, however, there are those of the opinion the only time you say bittul b'roiv is when the two items clash. For example, she'echad hu dove issa v'asheni hu dove heta, then we say bittul b'roiv min ha-Torah v'loi b'shnei minim shel heta. And now when you have two heta, and over here technically when you have camel's wool and you have wool from a sheep, there's no bittul b'roiv. So what's the bittul b'roiv over here? Lefi de'yizu, according to this opinion, tam heta ha'taroiv v'pishnem she'isa Kilayim noirak b'tzeme u'fishnem tavuyim. Over here, it doesn't work with bittul b'roiv like we explained, because the Mishna doesn't say a word about bittul b'roiv, bottle. A lot of times you have it says it's bottle. It's not bottle. It says mutter and osir. It doesn't say a word about nullifying over here, which is not in the norm. That's how Mefarshim, the Rav, is the bittul. Doesn't say a word here in bittul. So how does it work over here that it's allowed? Because tzemeh ufishtim, only works, this we already said, is only when they're woven together or spun together. That they're spun and then you weave them together. When you make the spin and you create threads from a mixture of camel and wool, it's not a din bittul. It's not going to be called wool. It's going to be called camel. The Rebbe of Taroibis creates it that you're going to call it camel because the majority is camel. Which is a lot in Pishta. This is how the Noid Yehuda explains these Mefarshim, and that's how the Aruch HaShulchan explains it, and the Chazon Ish and the Rebbe Kiva Egel. They all say the same thing. How is it Bittul B'Roiv here? It doesn't work Bittul B'Roiv. Because Bittul B'Roiv only works in a circumstance where you have Isser and Heta. So how does over here have it? Where's the Bittul B'Roiv? So they say that over here, since it's a majority, it doesn't work. It's a majority of camel's wool or camel's fur, whichever way you want to explain it, say it, translate it. It's considered as if you didn't even have wool, just because there's a l'chatchila. Yeah, there's no bittul. Till now, we were explaining how this works. This bittul between camel and regular wool. And he says the last couple of words of the Mishnah, V'chein ha'pishtim va'kanvus shetar from zeh b'zeh. Same thing with flax that got mixed up with canvas. How does he say English in canvas? Let me see for a sec. Minute. He calls it, and likewise in the case of hemp and flax that have been hackled together. Hemp, I don't know what hemp is.
You make rope out of it?
Hemp, yeah.
It's weed that doesn't get you high.
Okay, weed, okay.
Smoke it?
It's like a
Okay.
tall grass thing.
If flax and hemp are hackled together, the mixture may not be woven with wool if the flax exceeds or is equal to the hemp in quantity, but it may be woven with wool if the hemp exceeds the flax. It seems that it's a different, I don't know what a hemp is exactly.
It's like a tall fibrous plant.
Okay, but it's not what. So over here we call pishtim. The same halacha will be. So what does this mean? So let's see this for a second.
Don't tell anyone.
Okay, okay. Let me just finish this, and then we'll go into one more detail in this Mishnah. This is equal because we're talking about two sides of the coin here. We're talking about one side is what we call the flax side, and the other side is the wool side. And neither the two how do you say
Neither the two mix,
the
whatever.
tie you have
Tween shall meet.
huh
Never the twin shall meet.
tween.
That's the expression.
Okay, tween shall meet. I remember something like that. Okay, so the halacha is if it's canvas together, that's the hemp. It's not a problem. But if the flax is the majority, I feel the mechza even 50-50. Oslar but semen. The same thing, Rebbe Akoiden. Meaning, it'll work in the same fashion. We had two ways of understanding it. Either it's bittul b'roiv. I'll say it's not bittul b'roiv here. Question is, what is it called? What type of a shame do you give to it? If you give it a shame of flax, or you give it a shame of wool, no good. If it has another name, since the majority of the thread is made out of something else, it's not a problem. Now, Din ha-Mishna omer rak hashat tzemer chelim nisar b'tzemer ha-gemalim koyin tzvi yisachuta. This halacha works when the wool got mixed up with the camel wool prior to the spinning of the threads. Aval kashechuti tzemer chelim nisar b'chuti tzemer gemalim. But let's say you have two threads, and you want to make it into one thread. You have different threads put together, and now you want to make it into one big thread. It's called shua tavi v'nois, where you spin a whole bunch of threads together. It wasn't the second part, but the third part. So the halacha is, then it's a problem. This is the way it works. Why? Because once you have these threads that you can use technically, now you take these threads that you can call threads of wool and you put it with another type of a thread, it's not going to lose its shame. There's no bittul, according to the way we explained the second way of like the Chazon Ish and the Rebbe Kiva Eiger. Okay, that ends this Mishnah. Tomorrow we'll go into the next Mishnah. Chananya ben Akashram Zbrochel Zak Rotsher Zbrochel Zakas Yisrael Lafika Chibel Em Torah Mitzvahs Shenemar Adoyne Chofetz Man Tzidkoi Yagdil Torah V'Yadir.